Howdy, y'all. Hello, world. How's everyone doing today? It is Thursday, July 14th, approximately 5:08 p.m., wherever the heck I am. I'd tell you where that is, but I don't really know right now. But people on more stable ground, they're located Central Time at the moment, and it's about 4 o'clock. So, happy Thursday.
Is
Happy to be here today.
Are you saying your truck's not stable?
Not really.
Like, it's got 4 wheels. It should be stable. Or I hope it's got 6 wheels. Okay. I feel like if you're unstable, that's a problem, Sean. Actually,
you it's stable. You can't push it over. I guess that counts.
That's good.
Unless there's a light breeze. That's a problem. Well, anyway,
gotta be careful.
Yeah, they're wild. Okay, so we are here today talking about Quivr, more Quivr stuff. We've done a few of these so far where we talk about propositions and proofs and putting those into transactions, and that's how we can encode some really crazy spending logic on our really awesome blockchain that we're making. So just as a recap, a proposition is something that essentially defines what you need in order to unlock the box. And then a proof is the actual thing that unlocks it. Okay, so you need to fulfill some sort of contract, in essence. So the contract, as I mentioned, I accidentally mentioned that. That's really what a proposition is. You're defining a contract. And that contract dictates the spending logic for a box. Now, the title here is Hashed Timelock Contracts. Gonna be honest, I don't know if we're gonna get through all of those words today, but I am hoping to get through the first one. So hashed contracts, or hash locks, is what we call them. And it's essentially just a way of locking up a box with some sort of secret data. But that secret data gets hashed through some sort of hashing algorithm. At the moment, we're talking about Blake 2B 256. So it produces a 256-bit hash, so 32 bytes. And that 32 bytes is what you can sort of semi-publicly tell people about. It's not like the full secret, but the thing that you really want to share with people is the address. And that's, super, super hidden away. Let me... I'll just kind of share this real quick, and then I think that James may have some diagrams that are probably going to depict what we're going to do a little bit better than I'll be able to explain. But real quick,
I doubt that. Don't hype me up so much, man.
But it's totally possible.
Low expectations.
Anyways, yeah, a proposition, it encodes the spending logic of a box. I guess I should mention a box is like, it's kind of like having a token on a chain. So like a box that holds on to a value, but it also holds on to a little stamp for essentially the spending address, the logic that can spend into that box. Okay, but the proposition encodes that logic that can spend it. So we've got these knowledge propositions here. We've also got, compositional propositions and contextual propositions. But today we're interested in knowledge propositions, and in particular, this hash lock knowledge proposition. And it sits alongside these other propositions, these, curve 25519, ed 25519, and then it's extended ed 25519. Those all relate to signing routines. And they are slightly different from what we're going to be talking about here with a hash lock. I don't know if James, do you want to go into that distinction, or is it kind of should we just kind of move on?
Oh yeah, at this point we'll cover some. So for the diehards, right? Obviously, there's a distinction here between zero knowledge proofs of knowledge and direct proofs of knowledge. I'm sure our research director and folks would have much more better terminology here, but we're, for the purposes of demonstrating simple little contracts, we're just going to focus on these like direct revelations of knowledge, as that's like what's the point for hash locks. But we can do really cool things with this, like these Sigma protocols that we're building this in this like construction. So much more exploration to be done there.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Okay, so this one right here, the hash lock, this is the one that we're going to talk about today first, and then we might get to the other one later, but probably not. A hash lock proposition basically says you need to prove to me that you have knowledge of a thing that can hash to whatever this digest is. So again, this is 32 bytes long, and you need to prove to me that you know the bytes that result in this hash value right here. Okay, so again, this is the proposition side, and then we have the proof, which is, I thought I deleted some of this stuff anyway. I was looking for this one. And so yeah, this is that little distinction I mentioned. This is not a zero knowledge proof of knowledge, but yeah, don't worry about that for now. Anyway, this is the proof, and these are the bytes that you need to provide. So you need to prove to me that you have bytes that, when hashed, result in this digest right here. And again, we're going to go with Blake 2B256 for now, but I do have a to-do in the code base. Could we support others? Like SHA 256 or SHA 512, which means could we support different digest sizes? But for now, Blake 2B256. Okay, so that's the proposition, that's the proof, and we're gonna run through a quick example and then a more complex example. But I will pass it over to James to run through some diagrams real quick.
All right, so I did my best. Which little, I guess, there we go. And I want this one, please. There we go. All right. How can I do this most effectively? Let's see, I can draw little boxes like this, and we can color them transparently with a stroke of red, and we can make it bold. All right, so that's what we're gonna do for now. We're gonna move this around with that little pointer. But dang it, doing that, whatever. Anyway, focus on the box. So we're gonna go through this so exactly what Sean just walked through for this very, very simple hash lock. So there's multiple steps, right? It's an extended UTXO system. I mean, really any crypto system, you're gonna have to do multiple steps. I'm gonna be a little explicit for now. And for the next one, and that's just to try to like set the scene and like to just the extended UTXO smart contracts like system, the paradigm is a little different than in the normal account model. We tend to think in the account model, it's a very kind of accessible. It's a very simplistic idea, or it maps very neatly to what we believe, or like how we think in terms of one entity controlling many like things. So the way the little like phrase that I really like is, instead of a single contract holding many tokens, each token holds its own contract, right? That's what an extended UTXO smart contract system is, that every single token has its own little smart contract stamped on it. And so for a like dApp, you can have replicated that contract across many UTXOs. And so any contract is just any logic, any true or false like evaluation that just says, does this person satisfy whatever lock has been put on the UTXO, on the token? Right? And then those locks can become as naive or sophisticated as you want to become. Also, you can embed little VMs inside those scripts or those boxes, those evaluations. And this is how things like Ethereum, like the scripting languages, where you have your own like Solidity or these opcodes, and you have whole like paradigms, these little VMs inside the little things. You can have, what I mean is you can have entire like Turing completeness. in the little scripts, right? We're not going to explore Turing completeness. We don't enable, like our extended UTXO smart contract system and the ones that are primarily being developed at the moment strive to like restrict the amount of Turing completeness at the single transaction level so that you split transactions across computations over multiple transactions to allow for better determinism of the like final result of the transaction, because you essentially checkpoint the like execution of a contract across many different states. So I'm sorry I get a little into the weeds, but this is why the concept where we're going to really simple things. So and you'll see even the simple thing, there's many steps to it. And then as the complexity of the dApps grow, so does the like number of steps and the number of things involved. And it can get very complex very, very quickly, which is fundamentally like why Ethereum is like a problem. Sorry, I gotta get off that high horse. So back to basics, please. Anyway, so we got 3 people in our little bitty like simple hash lock thing. We're gonna have Sean, and Sean's gonna be represented here by some secret key, right? Some ed25519, or you know, it could be even a SECP256K1, any elliptic curve, just some sign routine, right? That's secured by discrete log, right? So just some secret key. We're going to have a hash lock address. So this is an address derived from the spending logic that is associated with knowing the password to the hash lock, right? And so what I mean by basically, this whole example, we're going to set a password. Sean's going to want us to, so say we want to do a simple money transfer. Sean's, you know, in North America and I'm somewhere else, right? And I don't have access to, I want to transfer money and I want to use the blockchain to do that. So Sean decides that he's going to just say, James, I'm going to take some funds. I'm going to lock it up in a password, right? Like a symmetric cipher. I'm just going to put a single password. I'm going to generate an address for that. I'm going to put some things there. And then you're going to go generate the address for that password and just prove that you know what the password is, and you'll get the money, right? So he's going to take his money, he's going to transfer it to me, and we're going to do that via this intermediary that is just knowledge of the password, and you can think of that as a symmetric cipher. It's just that you're encrypting something in a place, and then you're letting someone know, and then they can spend it by decrypting it because you pass that knowledge on to them. Very similar to like the asymmetric cryptography that we use for these things, which is what prompted the point earlier. But anyway, so that is what the hash lock address actually is. And then, you know, finally we have the James address, right? So the whole point of this example is to go from a Sean controlled address where the 5 polys will start to a intermediary hash lock address, which is going to just hold the funds. And then I will prove that I know what the password is, and then I'll claim the funds and move them to an address that I own. That might be my James SK address. Okay, so to start off, Sean is going to create a hash lock proposition. And all that is a hash lock is just, for now, we're just gonna do strings. You might see in the code that it's slightly different when Sean shows this, but I wanna focus on just the example that we only supply passwords. So in that case, you provide a digest that is just some bytes. And the value that you paste into this hash lock, right? The actual hash lock itself will have the bytes here, the hex data, if you were to print it out. But the way you generate that hex data that goes into this value, into the byte, the digest label, is by picking a hashing algorithm. For this instance, we could say Blake2B or SHA-3 or some other hashing algorithm, any hashing algorithm. And you would hash the string password 123 by also assuming a UTF or an encoding, a string encoding of some sort. But the result of that hash algorithm would be a set of bytes, and you would use that set of bytes to construct this hash lock, right? So the yellow here is meant to say like, this is how you construct it, but the actual thing that we have is this blue. So the teal, I guess. Is this teal? Is this the color we keep like having trouble with?
I'm going with blue.
I need labels.
It's blue-ish, but well, then staking down below is blue.
Blue green. It's an
bleh.
aqua. Blah. So I feel like when people are listening to me trying to explain this stuff, they're just like, blah, James, what the fuck? What the hell, man? Sorry, my bad. I will moderate my language. I apologize for the children listening at home trying to learn about extended UTXO smart contracts. Anyway, so HashLock. This is a little in the weeds, and I don't really want to focus on it, but there is an intermediary step that there's something involved with consensus right here. Sean has to use the HashLock to generate a full address by providing a staking key. This is for the advanced folks. If you don't know what this is, just consensus. It's just a step that we got to do. So ignore it, and we actually have a really amazing. I'm going to plug, man. Awesome, man. I'm improving over time. Bear with me, people. We'll get through this. We'll learn. But next week we're going to have an amazing talk by our director of research to introduce Tacticos, which is it's you're going to want to be there. It's the flash in the pan. It's the special sauce. It's the thing that's going to make Topple the best blockchain in the freaking world. So highly recommend tuning in next Thursday for that talk. But anyway, so related to consensus, full address, tune in, you'll learn more about it. Stick around and we'll learn much more about distributed applications together. So next thing, you take the full address, you go into so Sean's going to create a transaction. So with the full address, Sean will create a transaction and broadcast that sends the 5 polys to the HashLock address, right? So up until this point, right, that's what these black lines are supposed to be. Like up until this point, Sean still has this 5 polys, right? There's nothing, he still owns it, right? Right up into this black line. And at this black line, this transaction gets picked up. But I could have just done this the whole time. Why was I drawing a black box? And what is this? What was I? Come on, James, think with your head. So this transaction, I'm just Sean's transaction is picked up by a block producer, included into a block, right? That I included that part because that is the event that moves the box, right? Up until that point, the box is still at Sean. And more importantly, and to the point of consensus and there's a settlement depth. And so James really wants to be sure. We're going to skip over all that jazz for now, right? We're just going to simply say, Sean does the most irresponsible thing in the world and sends some money to the password 123. It's definitely be stolen by a bot before James can get to it. I'm not getting that money. A bot is going to steal it. This is a bad idea. Don't ever do this in the UTXO smart contract system, people. Please. Much less, don't ever just text the password and be like, hey, there's some money at this password on this blockchain. Someone's going to steal it. That's why these things are insecure. You got to add more things to them. But our little toy example, this is fine. Sean can be as naive as he wants to be because that's how we learn. We make mistakes and then we don't do it in the real world, or at least in production. We try not to do it in production, please. That's the golden rule. You can do it in the real world. Yeah, you can do it in the real world. Just don't do it in production.
just don't do it on Topple's real world code. Do it on your company's code, not ours. What that?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. This is not financial or security advice. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Listen to Aaron next week, though.
Unless it has to do with Mona. Yeah. Yes. He definitely. All right. So. In this case, he also knows what he's talking about because he's just gonna text me and he's gonna tell me the password is 123. I'm gonna scramble. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. And this is not that Sean. This is James rushing right before and not changing the labels. James recreates the HashLock proposition, right? So now that I have this thing, I actually still need. So this is one of the downsides. I'll admit it. I'm not above the troubles and tribulations of what it takes to build a robust distributed ecosystem. This is a hard problem. We got to solve this. But I got to recreate the proposition on my side. But once I have that proposition, I can, at the same time, right? It was hard to like kind of show this, but I need these two things, right? I need this thing that we call a credential, and I need this thing called an unproven transaction, right? So I just did, technically I could do all three of these at the same time, but I did this thing. You need the hash lock before you can do this. So that's why I time ordered them that way. Sue me. But this one, see, this one, we just do the same thing. You know, I technically created it with the hash of the password 123. I just did the same hash, but I have to wrap it in this thing again. But I also need to give a credential, just the password itself, like just straight the password. Yes, you're right. You're like, well, James, why can't you have the information? Why can't the credential just generate the proposition? And indeed, dear internet viewer, you are correct. And that's how we do it in the code. If you see Sean, he will create the credential and then just generate the proposition from the credential. I just thought at the time of making this that it would be easier to show this first. But yes, it's kind of like a circular thing. But the credential, credentials embed propositions inside of them. So you have to basically be able to, if you can create a credential, you can create a proposition. You may not be able to, however, if you can create a credential, you can create a proposition, but you may not necessarily be able to create a proof or a full proof, right? And in this instance, that's why we needed the unproven transaction and the credential, because if you take the credential and then and the unproven transaction and you generate the proof for that transaction, right? So I use this credential and I use this and I create my proof. I put in the transaction. I fill in this little box. See, this one doesn't have it. This one does. There we go. And I broadcast it to the blockchain just like before. Nothing's happening. This box is up for grabs all the way from here, right? This box is just a sitting duck on the blockchain. All the blocks that are coming, you know, here and here and here, all this like wasted time, and I'm having to do all this stuff. Someone can come and grab that block or grab that box, right? Because all they need to know is the string password 123, password 123. That the string password 123 is the entire like knowledge of that, and all you have to do is prove to the other members of the protocol that you have knowledge of that string. That is what we mean by proof of knowledge. You prove to everyone else that you have this knowledge. And by proving that, you are allowed to then spend the token or consume the token in a transaction, right? And that's why you're allowed to use it as an input and then generate an output. And from this output, I was a little lazy, but I would send it to my address under some like secret key that I control, or some other key. So, I mean, like I said, this is a very, very simple like example of just a couple of things and a very simple password. I'm going to kick over Sean again and see if, I mean, we can just run the example, right? Just want to step through it. And then maybe we'll get to, if you want to do the complex example, I didn't have time to make the diagram, but I think, I mean, it's very similar, but we can just maybe step right into the code from there.
I barely had time to do the code.
I know, man. Today just like went by faster than I just kind of got away from me.
Right? Just flying.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that reference code that we're totally not referencing, I also messed up the order of who does what. It's okay though. That just means that I go first. All right. Hash lock. Okay, so step one was I need to construct a proposition, a hash lock proposition, and then I need to construct a transaction that produces an output box that is locked by that proposition. Okay, so that's my goal here, and it's totally gonna work. You'll see.
Confidence.
Okay. Completely confident, yes. Okay, so the first thing is I've got my a super secret password here, and I know it, and James doesn't. Even though
It's
he can
rude,
see my
man.
screen, I'm gonna hang on. So can I kick James out so that he can't see this part? I need to text it to him later.
I could,
No.
I can just cover my eyes.
Okay, so our password 123, of course. Um, James mentioned that I'm gonna do something that's not just with a string here. I need to turn this into bytes, basically, is what he meant. You can do a hash lock on any string of bytes. If like it could be an image, it could be a movie if you wanted. That would be ridiculous, but it technically is a way for you to store. Well,
It's
okay,
an
so
address. It's
you
do you
wouldn't
have
like
proof
once
of
you reveal
knowledge?
the proof, yeah, if you've got the proof for the bytes, okay, so you wouldn't download a car, which is completely ridiculous because I would absolutely download a car if I could do that. That's the dumbest commercial ever. I'm sorry. Why did they put that on TV? But at the very least, you could download.
Boomers, man.
Yeah, right, for real. You could download a movie from a hash lock proof though. So if anyone really wants to, go for it. It'd be fun. Anyway, instead of a movie, I'm gonna go with the string password 123. So, uh, why is it so hard for me to type standard character sets? This is UTF-8. Come on, IntelliJ. What?
Yeah, IntelliJ's been struggling for me today. I think the heat is getting to IntelliJ.
Oh, it's because it's not character sets. It's char sets. Sorry, IntelliJ, for yelling at you.
Well,
Sorry.
you also just any UTF-8, any UTF.
Okay, so yeah, it's a UTF-8. That's how I'm encoding the string, and then I'm extracting the bytes into. This is a byte vector from Scodec. It's a Scala library, and then I just need to put that into the F context. Okay, so this is my secret data. I'm not going to reveal this on the chain yet. I'm going to create a transaction that, well, it doesn't even reveal the proposition for it either. This is the secret data. Well, actually, so let's start with first we need to hash this thing. So like 2b256 dot hash, and then we'll pass it our secret data. Okay, so now I got the hash. Now I can construct our proposition. Okay, so you remember that didn't go well. Thank you. There we go. Our hash lock proposition takes a digest 32. This is a digest 32 right here. So our proposition is just a propositions dot knowledge dot hash lock, and then we pass in our digest. Okay. So now we've got a proposition, and now I need to define the spending address for it as well, because that's what's going to be stamped on the output that I'm going to produce in this transaction here. Okay, so our spending address is just, well, it's just again the hash of the proposition essentially, but it's a slightly different hash. But we could just do proposition dot spending address. So got our spending address. Now sorry, yep, go ahead.
Oh no! My bad. I for some reason thought I was like, oh, spinning address. Wait, did you add the like automatic exile thing? Don't ignore me.
Oh, gotcha. No, this isn't a full address quite yet, but I will have to do that. Well, with that said, is it on this branch? No, it's not. Sorry, it's on the consensus validation state branch, which is what I'm currently working on. That includes it's called non-staking, but yeah, the exile address, which is what James was just referring to. So that's upcoming. For now, we actually have to use an operator staking address, but it doesn't matter. This is all fake and made up, and it's a simulation. That sounded like a Rick and Morty quote. Whatever. Okay.
I was definitely
got our
expecting
address.
a burp.
Yep. If I could burp right now, I totally would. All right. So we've got our address. Now we need to create a transaction. I need to create this output box on the chain so that James can go and claim it after I text him the password that he doesn't know because he can't see my screen. Obviously.
What password?
Yeah. What password? Okay. So our unproven transaction, proven transaction. That's great typing. Is transaction dot unproven. Okay. So the inputs to this transaction, back in this diagram that James was walking us through here, James mentioned that I currently own these 5 polys at like an address associated with my secret key. I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. But ordinarily, yes, I would control these funds that I'm about to move into this totally secure, password protected box. Super secure. Again, not security advice. Don't listen to me. Anyway, our unproven input. It takes, what are the things here? Okay, so my box ID again. I'm going to spend a completely made up box. So this part doesn't matter. It's just going to be an arbitrary box ID arbitrary first. Again, don't worry about that. This box doesn't matter. Just sending. The proposition again doesn't matter. This is where it would be like my secret key proposition. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The beauty of blockchains in like we have all these hoops we have to jump through in order to like do these sandbox simulation things. It's so like rigorously defined that's hard to actually do it peacefully, like not have to adhere to all the strict pieces of it, like the DAG nature. That's what we keep getting tripped up on. So we just have these little like helper functions to help us ignore those first inputs and just kind of like simulate inputs that are valid, so we can like step into the middle of a transaction graph. Otherwise, we'd have to like start from a genesis point and like simulate all the like start from some fixed point and then go to send the funds to a box that we know and then send the funds to a different box we know. And it's turtles on turtles. So these arbitrary things just like help us set that genesis really quickly.
Yeah, that was one of my early realizations when I first started blockchain engineering was it is so hard to unit test. Well, actually, unit testing in Tetra is not particularly difficult, but integration testing definitely is because it has to work. And like you have to follow time. Like you're bounded by a clock and everything. It's wild. Thanks, Aaron, for making a difficult blockchain technology. Jeez. So hard to test because you had to make it secure and safe. Jeez. Gotta show up Bitcoin.
Security is not convenient, man.
No, it isn't. I'm just messing with you. It is really cool. Okay, so now this is the part that we actually care about. So I need to send an output to, well, it's going to be going to James. It's not actually going to James. It's going to a password protected box that I'm going to tell James the password. So the output here, first thing that I need is a full address. This is the part that we're going to kind of gloss over. It was this part right here that it's for the diehards if you care about it, but that's going to come into play next week when Aaron presents the really cool stuff. I'm so sorry to be like forcefully commuting this on you, Aaron. Good luck. I'm sure it's going to go great though. I'm excited. Okay, so the full address here, we just take our spending address from up above. So spending address. Now the output that we are producing is 5 polys. So again, box.values.poly and pass in 5 polys. And then finally minting doesn't matter for this one. Minting is false. Okay, so again, the spending address is encoding this hash lock proposition, which is, well, it's derived from the hash of this secret data up here that we've constructed. Okay, and then the final two things on here really don't matter. For the sake of time, I'm going to copy paste from the reference code that I am not referencing. Okay, now we've got an unproven transaction. I would prove this and broadcast it. Unfortunately, proving and broadcasting would involve having the stuff corresponding to like this proposition, which was completely arbitrary. So I don't feel like doing that right now. All that really matters, though, is that James has access to a box ID that he's going to spend, as well as the proposition and the proof associated with that box that he's going to spend. A box ID contains a transaction ID, as well as the transaction output index. But the transaction ID is derived from an unproven transaction. So this is all I really need for now in order to give it to James. Okay, so in order for James to spend the box, he is going to need to know, well, actually, all he's really going to need to know is the secret data. So I'm just going to print out the box ID, and then I'm going to text him the password. So I'm going to print out, well, first of all, the box ID is going to be box.id, and then it's unproven transaction.id, and then the index that James is going to spend is, this one right here, so 0. So index 0, and then I'll just print out your box ID is, well, your box is located at, and then box ID. Okay, cool. So hopefully that is all good. Okay, so let me run this. And again, just to recap, our secret data is password 123. I'm going to text that over to James. And then James is going to use that password to construct a proof that can spend this box. Okay, so this is the box ID, and then it's the output that that James is going to spend is at 0. Okay, so I'm going to copy, paste, and send this over to James. So that James has the box ID that he can spend, and then I'm also going to copy paste the password and send that over to, or text it to James. And James is going to be able to construct that box. Or sorry, spend the box. And so yeah, I will pass over to James.
Well, let's see if I can actually do this. My other computer decided to go to sleep, and so I apologize for the audio issue a second ago. It went to sleep. It was, I think, StreamYard kept the mic unmuted. Oh no. Okay. Where? What module? Can you remind me the module? I'm trying to.
Yeah, we're in Bramble, and then in the test directory.
Test. I went to me.
Yeah, and then playgrounds and broadcast.
There we go. Thank you, sir. Okay. Oof. I gotta hop back, don't I? I do. Apologies, folks. Technology never wants to help you out when you need it most. It's like the demo gods are always against you. Never, ever trust technology when you need it most. It's really, I say that, and then I really love my my steering and the lane assist thing. So maybe I take it back.
I need one of those.
Right? How about you?
Heck yeah.
Oh, this is gonna. Yeah, sometime. All right. Oh, I did the wrong one. Oy. I meant to do. I'm just gonna do this. I know. I'll be careful. Here we go. Okay. See, I have this up. Nope. Sean. Oh my goodness. Was this the authorization validation? Was that what this? Yeah, I know. I actually didn't see your message until I didn't realize you guys were chatting in the private thing. So my mistake. I was wondering, you kept saying I was going to do this, and I was like, okay. Okay. So, we have the, so Sean was able to send over what our password and yes, okay, there we go. And so I'm going to do this, and we're going to make a new object. James, part 3. We're going to steal the first part of this code from Sean because this is always super useful.
You can skip that first object and the second object. Yeah, I messed up with.
Oh yeah.
James does this. Yeah, we're on
all the way to
#3.
this.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, this is what I want. Boom. Okay. James PR3, so I don't have to go and figure things out. Man, I'm having a really hard time typing right now. Okay, so we now have we just need to recreate the proposition, and my indexing thing is not working so great. All right, so we are going to secret data. And this is just remember, this is the bytes from the password that we had gotten from Sean. So what we could also do if, yeah. Nope, Sean did send me the bytes, but I'm gonna just recreate it myself. Yeah, oof, okay. Yeah, no, I actually had to step away. I'm sorry, there's some other door that I need to go talk to real quick. My bad, Sean. Here, I'm gonna stop sharing. Do you just want to pull up this part and go through it again?
Yeah, I'll pretend that I'm James. This will be fun.
I'm sorry, man.
I'm the boss now. I'm in charge.
Thank you.
You're all fired. Get out. No, this will be fun. Okay. So yeah, let's just pretend that I'm James, and so yeah, so Sean just texted me. Oh, wait, I have a good idea. Here we go. So now I'm James, the boss, and I'm in charge now. Okay, so Sean just texted me password 123, and he also just texted me this box location. Okay, and now I get to spend that box because I'm James, the boss. Okay, so yeah, let's just make a new object down here. So object, part 2, #lock part 2 extends IO app. Simple with utils, I think it was. That's probably close. Yeah, that works. Okay, and then so def run. I'm just gonna copy paste. Why am I typing? That's foolish. And just yield nothing. Okay. So Sean texted me the secret data. Okay, so secret data is just going to be bytes, and then again it was password 123. This is what Sean just texted me. I do get bytes, and then I pass in standard parsets dot UTF-8, and then just lift it into the F context. Okay, so this was the password that Sean just sent to me. And I need that in order to construct the proof in order to spend the box. Okay, but first I need to reconstruct the proposition associated with it. Okay, so the digest is going to be, again, new Blake 2B. Why am I typing? I'm just going to copy. I don't actually need that address though, so I'll just copy paste that. So I got the digest, and then I've recreated the proposition as well. Okay, and then so now is where, like, I need to pick where I'm going to move those 5 polys to. So like this is where it would go to, like I would send them to my secret key, or well, the address associated with it. For now, I'm just going to do an arbitrary one though. So the next address is just going to be arbitrary spending address, arbitrary first. Again, just testing stuff, super helpful for this kind of thing. Okay. Actually, I don't need that quite yet. What I needed to know was the box ID. And that's going to be the one that is down here. Okay, so this is the box that I'm spending. So I'll just got a little helper here for decode ID, passing the base 58 value, and then the index, oops, not there, the index of the output that was this index, 0. Okay, so that's the box ID that we're going to spend. And then next address, that's where we're going to move it to. And now I need to create the unproven transaction that spends that password protected box. So transaction.unproven. Our inputs to this transaction, this is where we need to reference that box that Sean just created and sent to me. So the password protected one. Unproven dot input. Okay, so this is where the box ID, that one right there. And now the proposition. And finally, the value, which was just, these 5 polys right here. So box dot values dot poly, and then it's 5. So that's our unproven input. So it's the box that we're going to spend, and then our output, this part doesn't really matter all that much. But this is where I'm just going to move it to that other thing. So transaction.output, and then 2 full, this doesn't, it's a 2 full address, and then this is just that arbitrary next address. Doesn't really matter for now. And then, so 5 polys, and we're not minting. So why did I say 5? Minting is false. Okay. That's our output. And then again, the chronology and the data I don't really care about, so I'm just going to copy paste, put those in. Okay. So now we have an unproven transaction. But I need to prove that I know this password right here. So password 123. And I need to attach that proof to this thing. So that's going to be well, first I need to construct a credential. Sorry, so credential is going to be a credential.knowledge.hashlock. And this is where it requires the secret data, so the bytes that we are hashing into the proposition. So that's this thing right here. So secret data. So we've got a credential now. And now I need to construct a transaction using that credential. So transaction equals unproven transaction dot prove. And then we're going to associate with the hashlock proposition up above. And we're going to attach the proof generated by the credential. And so now we have our transaction that we have proven. Like, we've proven that we know this password now. And we can broadcast it. So broadcast transaction, we'll pass in that transaction. Okay, and then I will go ahead and run this. Maybe. Come in. There we go. And so yeah, it broadcasted our transaction. And that's the idea of our transaction. And here is our proposition. And then our proof. Which, 32 bytes over here versus however many bytes goes into password 123. I don't know how to count. I ran out of fingers, but it's less than 32. So that's why it's shorter. So yeah, we got through very little of our hash time lock contract. We got through just the hash and just a very basic hash lock, which is great because that means that we got more content for future broadcasts.
Easy.
This is great. I love the convenience of that.
Yeah. I thank you for covering for me. Apparently, I wasn't prepared, and then we had this gentleman for a job is visiting this afternoon. So, and he showed up a little early, so my bad.
I'm happy to be the boss. Look at me, James the boss.
Sean the boss. It's got a good ring to it.
So yeah, I mean that's all we got for today. I'll go back to being Sean now. There we go. So yeah, as I said, we only got through like a very basic, very simple example. It's just a simple hash lock, creating a password protected box on the chain. And as long as you know the password, you can spend it. Next time we want to do something a little bit more complex, which is, well, this is getting into the meat of a hash time lock contract, which is the ability to essentially make a trade, but do so very securely. And so the main use case is being able to trade between different blockchains. So I want to send, 5 Bitcoin and you give me 300 Ethereum or whatever, something like that. So you can do these sorts of swaps, but do them securely and with the guarantee that the other person isn't going to run away with your funds. So that's what we hope to do next. Stay tuned. That's not going to be next week. Next week, you get something way cooler, way cooler than what we've been talking about. Stay tuned for that. You get to learn about Tacticos. I'm super excited for it. And so, yeah, please tune in. That'll be next week from today. Yeah, any final thoughts, James, or any questions from the chat? More than happy to field them.
All right. Yeah, I think thank you for going through that with us, like all the code. And I just want to point out that is not an easy feat to, even as little differences that there were between the diagrams and the code that Sean was writing. That is not a very easy feat to achieve, to have them even closely mirrored like that. So the more we can get people to understand and interact and kind of give us examples, the easier we can make things for everyone. So please, if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to find us on Discord or leave a comment on YouTube or anything, right? Like, please, we want to make this it's only going to be as useful as people can build with it. So I think Sean's doing a really great job of making things as intuitive as possible, and we strive to keep bringing value to people.
Heck yeah. Yeah, so James mentioned the Discord. That's up there on the screen, and actually, I don't know. Hopefully, y'all can still hear. I don't know if I'm on the stream, but
yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so oh, perfect. Okay. So yeah, that's our Discord link. Feel free to drop in, ask any questions. We'd love to see you. Say hi, ask us anything about blockchains or anything else. And other than that, you can see our code over on GitHub, github.com/topple. You can check us out, on all the social medias. Just check out the links here. We're also hiring, of course, so check us out on angel.co. And if you want like actual information about our company or product or anything like that, topple.co is where you go. That accidentally rhymed. I love it. Wow. Genius.
Come help us topple the world.
There we go. Heck yeah. Cool. Thanks, y'all. See y'all next week, or maybe sooner. We'll see.
Have a good one.